Welcome to Science Unwrapped as we continue our Celebrate Undergraduate Research during USU's Year of Undergraduate Research. My name is Michelle Baker. I'm a professor in the biology department, and I'm standing in for our Science Unwrapped chair, Brynja Kohler, who's traveling to Southern Utah on university business tonight. On behalf of Utah State's College of Arts and Sciences, thanks so much for coming and participating in tonight's event. We're really glad to have you. Tonight, we're really excited to welcome our featured speakers. Tanner Helms graduated from Utah State this past spring with a bachelor's degree in computer science. And along with his classmate, Bryce Judy, Tanner developed an innovative software business idea, which you'll hear about more this evening. And Tanner and his friend Bryce are the 2025 recipients of the competitive Tim Draper Utah Entrepreneur Challenge Prize, which they used to fund their startup, which is called Tarifflo. Tanner's from Eagle, Utah, says spikeball and pickleball were his favorite Utah State University classes. His favorite undergraduate activities were rock climbing, skiing the Beeve, and camping in Logan Canyon. And when he's not working, he enjoys playing golf, along with visiting sand dunes and riding dirt bikes. Our other speaker is Tanner's former faculty mentor, Dr. Chad Mano. Chad is an alumnus of Utah State University, and as a teen, he attended USU's Engineering State Summer Camp, which sealed his decision to attend Utah State. He earned a bachelor's degree in economics and a master's degree in computer science, and then later completed a doctoral degree at the University of Notre Dame. And since he couldn't get enough of being an Aggie, he returned to USU as a faculty member. He's currently a professional practice associate professor in USU's School of Computing, and he leads USU students in a program called Sandbox, which is a national program, and it fosters students' entrepreneurial ventures. So please welcome Tanner and Chad.
Okay, before we get started, I need some volunteers, and I actually, it's too late to volunteer because I went and told a couple of people. So if I could have my new friends Sophia, Maddie, and Ryan come up real quick. Okay, so here's what they're going to do for us, Dave. I'm going to give each of them a product. So come on over. And they're going to learn some stuff tonight. And then at the end, they're going to come pitch their product, okay? So we are going to, let's see, Sophia, we're going to give you this mug. Okay. Maddie, we have a Utah State lanyard. And then Ryan, we have this little football. And by the way, Ryan is only doing this because I told him I would email his teacher to beg for more extra credit than he's going to get anyway. So, okay, so you guys can go sit down with your friends or family who you came with, and you can talk with them throughout the presentation when you learn some stuff to make your pitch at the end as good as it can be. So Tanner's going to introduce himself and his company in just a second. But first, I wanted to address something because you heard Dr. Baker when she introduced the theme for Science Unwrapped this year is undergraduate research. And we didn't actually do research in our program. What we did was we did a tech startup. So we want to kind of talk about what that is. So Tanner, what's a startup?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, a startup is just any business in its early stages in any industry. So it could be anything you think. If you're out in public and there's someone with a beautiful lemonade stand trying to sell some lemonade, you can consider that a startup. So any company that just knew it in early days, no matter what size and what industry. Great.
So how many of you have done a lemonade stand startup? A lot of you, a lot of the older people. That's a good one. Okay, and so Tanner, first of all, what is the tie between a tech startup and research? And we're actually not going to call on anybody, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and that's the whole point of our presentation, right? A lot of times you think of undergraduate research as not being some like software related or a tech startup. It might be something more materialized and more physical that you could see.
Yeah, so we're going to learn the answer to this as we go tonight. So first thing, Dr. Baker mentioned a program called Sandbox. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it real quickly. So this is a new program to Utah State. We're in our second year. It's been in existence for about 5 years. And what we do is we take students from different departments, mainly the School of Computing, Data Analytics and Information Systems, Electrical and Computer Engineering, and some others, and they come together, they form teams, they think of a software product idea, they build it and launch it, and some companies like Tanner's even make it to the fundraising stage. So it's actually an educational experience, experiential learning, if you've heard of that, where they dive deeper into building something more technical than we've ever been able to do in classes before. Okay, and so last year, a year ago now, Tanner was just starting this program. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his company, but then we're going to go in more details throughout the presentation about the whole story. So Tanner, tell us a little bit about, first of all, what a tariff is,
Right,
and then what Tarifflo does.
Yeah, absolutely. So to give you our model and kind of give you an idea of what we do is, you first have to understand what a tariff is.
Here's the shirt for the example about tariffs.
Okay, all right, perfect. So a tariff is essentially money that you would pay to the government in order to bring in any type of material or product from overseas, like non-domestic. And the reason why the government does this is to encourage manufacturing and trade, within the U.S. Doesn't necessarily discourage it, but it comes out at cost of whenever you bring a product in from overseas or some raw materials. So like, for example, you could have like a shirt, right? Something that you wear every single day and it's just seen on your doorstep, and you can just purchase it at any local store like Walmart, Target, whatever. But a shirt like this, for example, like India is a really popular place to get cotton, right? And so it's a lot cheaper to get cotton in these different types of materials outside of the U.S. And so in India, they'll ship this cotton over to China. In China, they'll take the cotton, they'll put like a shirt like this together, and then they'll ship that product from China over into the U.S. But like I said before, whenever they bring that product into the United States, they're going to have to pay tariffs to the government. And so what we have built is we've basically built a tool that uses AI that goes and understands all the research behind these tariffs, and it can look at a company and all the products that they're bringing into U.S. and understand how they can save a lot of money by just learning a little bit about what's going off the tariff system and help them save money in that way.
Okay. Great, and one of the first idea that led to this company was identifying something. It's called an HTS code, but it's basically a category of the product. And so a shirt falls into a category. And in order to identify that category, it's pretty manually intensive, where someone sits down for a couple hours, looks at documentation to figure out what category that product goes into. And so the first product that Tarifflo built was an AI-based tool to do that within seconds, so saving companies lots of time. Okay. Now, the rest of our presentation is going to be about how to launch a tech startup. So for those of you in high school, after this presentation, we have big expectations for you that hopefully we'll be reading about you in the paper with your tech startup that started right here at Science Unwrapped. So step one, gaining technical expertise. Tanner, what does it mean to gain technical expertise? And tell us a little bit about your story of gaining that.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone, the moment you're born, everyone, God gives you gifts and talents. And so one of the biggest things is trying to understand how you can take these gifts and talents and actually turn it into expertise in a certain area, right? For me, it might have been, coding and computer science, but for other individuals, there's all different industries out there exceptional and have natural abilities at. And sometimes you don't, right? So when I started my learning here at Utah State in computer science, I really thought like I was at the bottom. I was given like the most basic projects in my very intro class, and like I had a really hard time trying to understand how to actually do those projects, and I found myself all the time here at Old Main, or I guess just over there at Old Main, like in the tutor room and trying to understand how to do it. But as I kept on working at it, I got better and better, try to actually get the fundamentals of computer science and start to build this technical expertise. And so in whatever industry or whatever career path or whatever degree you choose, you got to become as good as you can at it to the point where you learn enough to be able to actually start to apply it in the real world.
Yeah, so I love Tanner's story about that, because when he graduated, he's one of our best students, and one of our best students ever. And I didn't know this story about him struggling as a freshman until just recently. But I love the story because it really proves that it's hard work and dedication and you can become the expert in the thing that you're interested in. So first step of creating a tech startup is to become an expert in whatever you choose. Okay, next, step 2, you need to find pain. Now, raise your hand if you like going out and looking for pain. Only a couple of you, right? Okay, so Tanner, tell us a little bit about what that means, what pain means in terms of business, and what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. So finding pain is one of probably the funnest things, but the most outside of the box thinking that you have to do, right? So, we're going down this one first. Okay, yeah, my bad. Okay, so yeah, imagine you had a bucket and you had a shovel and you were trying to like move some dirt, right? And at a very small scale, like maybe just in your backyard, it can work. But as you start to move the dirt more and more, you realize like how frustrating that is with such a small shovel and such a small container to be able to put the dirt in. So you try to look for more ways that you can improve this process, right? To make it a little bit easier in your life to move this dirt. So you might go get something like a wheelbarrow and you might start to realize, oh wow, I can move like a dirt a little bit faster, it's a little bit easier to carry. And then you start to kind of max out on this and want something even more efficient and easier. So then you'll get a tractor, and with the tractor, then you can go from, moving some dirt in your backyard to like building a house. And the way that we went through this process to be able to identify this is we understood like what was hard and where we struggled, and we came up with a solution in order to fix that pain point.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Tanner. So a pain point is really just a problem, usually in a business, but it could just be your own problem that you have in your life where there's a solution to make it easier. And I think especially for those adults who have been working for many years, you probably have lots of pain points at work, right? Things that you wish could be done a little bit easier. And those are the types of things that we're looking for when we do a tech startup. So Tanner, tell us about how you identified a pain point.
Yeah, great question. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of why this is exciting. You have to think a little bit outside the box, is because as like a computer science student going into this completely foreign industry, is it something that I would think of, right? A lot of times when I'm thinking of pain points, I think of pain points in my everyday life, and I don't necessarily think about other people's pain points. And so when you're trying to identify a pain point, it's all about going and talking to all different people into places that you may have never been in terms of like an industry, or talking to people that you normally wouldn't talk to. And so to be able to find a pain point, you really just have to go out and talk to a lot of people in some maybe industry that you know nothing about.
Great. And so this is actually our step 2. Once you identify that pain, now you need to go become an expert again. And so Tanner, a year and a month ago, how much did you know about tariffs?
Yeah, when I first started this, I knew nothing about supply chain or tariffs. I didn't even know what that was, honestly.
Yeah, and so it was kind of like you're a freshman again, starting from scratch,
Right.
Not knowing, but you put in the time to, as you said, talk with lots of people, read a lot, and become an expert again in something completely different. Okay, now on to step 2. Now we need to fix the pain. So what does that mean, to fix the pain?
Right, this is kind of where all the dots connect, right? So you're a technical expert in some industry, and you've talked to other people in another industry, and you understand their pain points. Now you need to understand how you can bring your technical expertise and your skills and abilities into this other industry and start fixing their pains that they're having. And so, like I said, it takes a lot of thinking outside the box to think a little bit bigger.
Okay, great. Now, I was expecting somebody to shout out something about these slides. Have any of you noticed something weird about the slides so far? Lots of step 2s. We're not very far along, and that's actually not a mistake. Now, as a professor, I've made lots of mistakes in front of classes, but this is not one of them. I just want to point that out for those of you who had a class from me before and were like, oh, not again. So Tanner, why do we have 3 things in step 2?
That's a good question. So the reason why we have 3 things in step 2 is because we call this an iterative process. What this means is that as if you've been in any company or a business owner, you would understand that you have to talk to people, you have to understand their pain, you have to come up with a solution, you have to execute on that solution and present that solution back to the people, and then you keep on going into this circle and keep on refining over and over and over again until you have something that customer would actually be willing to purchase. And a lot of times in the early startup phase, this iterative process could be 30, 40, 50 times of going back and forth for months or even years until you actually have a product that someone's willing to buy.
Great. So I mentioned at the beginning that the first pain that Tanner and Tarifflo tried to solve was the HTS code, the categorization. Tell us a little bit about some of the other pains and solutions you came up with as you went through this iterative process.
Yeah, that's actually, it's been a pretty incredible experience over the last 13 months. So we started out identifying problems like with these tariffs and these codes like Chad mentioned. And then more recently, or kind of about 6 months ago, we realized that once people have changed these codes or understand where they can save on tariffs, they actually have to file documentation with the government in order for that to actually go in place. And so we found that a lot of companies really hate this documentation process. It can take a lot of time, and there's a lot of mistakes just by human error. You know, if you think about a company, like we work a lot with clothing brands because they have so many different products, right? You walk into like a Nike store, if you think about every single one of those products having to have separate documentation to bring into the US, it's very timely. And so we built a system that can also start to automate that documentation process with the government for these companies.
Yeah, great. So, so the main thing with that I want to point out is through this iterative process, you're continually learning, finding new pain points, finding really in depth why they're caused, finding solutions, talking to people to see if the solution works, and then going back and forth. And this is actually perfectly normal. It's very odd, actually, to come up with an idea and have that become the product when we're talking about tech startups. And we see that with, if you read stories of lots of the well-known companies out there, you'll find that that's perfectly normal. So as you are starting your own tech company, don't worry about your first idea being the greatest ever. Just get one to get you started so that you can start this journey of talking and learning, and through that you'll find maybe the big idea that really is going to take off. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, next, we're finally on to step 3. I hope you're all excited about that. So step 3 is sharing the fix, the thing that you worked on. So what does this mean, Tanner, and what goes into this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the most important, but it could also be possibly one of the hardest steps. So once you have a solution, obviously you have to go out and talk to even more people and figure out, okay, who's actually going to be willing to put money behind this and actually be willing to purchase this. And so part of sharing the fix is taking some really deep pain point that might be really, really complex on your solution or how you were able to solve it, and being able to put it together in like a 30-second pitch that I could just walk up to anybody that doesn't know anything about what I'm doing, and in 30 seconds have a really good understanding of what my company does and who we are. And a lot of times, people may not realize, but you might be talking to somebody that you know that won't be a potential customer or a potential client, but a lot of times they have someone else or have a referral of someone else that will be. So it's really important that whatever you're doing, if it's a tech startup or if it's research or whatever it is, to be able to understand your company or the research to such a high level that you can explain it in really, really simple terms. And so anybody that doesn't know anything about your company can understand what you do in 30 seconds.
Great. So I hope that you noticed that through this whole process, we're talking to a lot of people. Now, as a computer scientist, is that something you love to do?
I've learned to love it.
Hey, learn to love it. How many of you feel like you're kind of maybe an introvert? Talking with people isn't your favorite thing? It's okay to raise your hand. Okay, and how many of you are the opposite, where that's something that you just love? Okay, maybe not as many admitting it, but there's a bunch of each. This is one of the characteristics that we talk about a lot of us talk about in computer science, because if you look at the general population of computer science students, talking in front of other people is a hard thing. But it's super important to be able to do it and get used to it. And so in like the Sandbox program, we do a lot of presentations. And I'd encourage all of you, especially those of you in middle school and high school, that when you have a chance to stand up in front of people and talk, even if it's super, super scary, to take advantage of and try it. Because it's one of the most important skills, I think, that that you can learn. The other thing Tanner talked about is explaining something simply that's really complex. And that's actually really difficult. Mark Twain has a famous quote where he says, he wrote a letter to someone and said, "I'm sorry for the long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one." Because it takes a lot of thought. And so Tanner, can you explain Tarifflo? And everybody here knows what Tarifflo is, but we're going to have Tanner explain it in about the 2 or 3 sentences.
Yeah. So Tarifflo helps importers move product from overseas into the United States by helping them save on tariffs and automatically filing documentation for them.
Okay, great. Nice and simple. That's great, Tanner. And you told me earlier today, how many lines of code does it take to do what you just said?
Right now, we've put together about 230,000 lines of code in about the last year.
Okay. So for those of you that don't know, that's a lot of code. Sometimes for assignments, a student might write a couple hundred or something like that. So that's a pretty massive thing. Okay, let's see. Okay, now we're back to this question we had at the start. So why in the world did Science Unwrapped ask us to come talk about a tech startup when the theme for the year really is undergraduate research? So who has an idea? Well, this is just like a regular college class. So. Go ahead.
If you don't have your research, you can't start up.
Okay, so you have to learn stuff before you get going. Plus, that was a great play on words. I really appreciate that. Great, what else? We can also ask some of the professors in here who do a lot of research. You're allowed to answer as well. Oh, see, you're just like the students too. Go ahead.
Research makes it so that you're qualified and credible for a startup.
Okay, good. So research makes it so you're qualified and credible, you said, for a startup? And so that's part of becoming an expert or having the expertise in some field. That's great. Yep.
Research requires testing over and over again.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's my wife. She's so kind to answer a question when she sees me panicking up here. Okay, so that's a huge one. So Tanner talked about iterations. For the faculty here, raise your hand if you're a scientist. Okay, let's have, okay. Oh, Jan's here. Physics department head, longtime famous professor. Jan, do you ever, in your research, have you ever got it exactly right the first time where you didn't have to go back and try it at least one more time? Never. And Jan's been around a long time. Okay, so so you need to do it over and over. So it's very similar. Okay, for those professors here, how many of you have learned something new in the past year? Okay, so it's ongoing learning, and we talked a little bit about that where, Tanner 4 years ago didn't know about programming or computer science, struggled through and learned, became really good at it, and then a year ago had to start with tariffs and importing, exporting, something he knew nothing about. Okay.
Yeah. I have a quick analogy I want to give real too that I think kind of ties it all together. So before Tarifflo, I spent a couple of years in Alaska working up there, and the analogy I like to give is, I'd go out onto these harbors in the mornings, and you'd see all these boats. You'd see all their fishermen. They're all super clean. The boats are clean. All the rods are in order. All the nets are in place. And then the fishermen obviously would go out and they would fish during the day. And at the end of the day, they come back and it's all messy. You have rods all over the place. They're all tangled. But the goal of it is that they came back with some fish and they probably learned something along the way, right? So in our lives, you can think about maybe the classroom or going to class could be like teaching you how to polish this boat and get it all ready to go. But until that boat leaves the harbor, you're never going to catch any fish. And so you got to take what you learn in the classroom, you got to go out and you got to apply it, you got to learn, and it might be messy and you might come back in a completely different place than you started, but that's how you learn. And then you keep going over and over and over again, learning more and more and more. You get better, you know these fisherman spots, you know what to put on the line, And you just learn more and more, but you'll only learn stuff when you're out of the harbor. You'll never learn stuff while you're seeing boat at the harbor.
Great. Thanks, Tanner. I love that analogy. So really, one thing we want to emphasize, especially to the young students here, struggling to learn and trying hard and failing, have to do things over and over, that's the big part of learning. It's an exciting part of learning. When things come easy, I'll just say when things come easy in the long run, I don't think you come out as good. It's good to get dirty. It's good to struggle and pursue the things that you're interested in, even if it's very difficult. So, okay, so Tanner's going to wrap up and tell us a little bit about this slide and why we have it set up like this.
Yeah, so it's super exciting because over the course of last year, we started this last year in August, and I think we had this team established like 3 or 4 months into the business. And so what's really important about you developing as a person is that you understand what you're good at, but it's almost more important to understand what other people are good at and how to complement each other's skills and put it together. And so what was really exciting is normally, in the computer science department, I would never meet a ton of other individuals from different colleges. But through this company, we were able to put together a team of sales. We had technical writers. We had marketing. We had some UI designers. I think we probably had, 4 or 5 different colleges at the university kind of involved with the company. And it was way fun just being able to work with all these people and all working towards the same goal, but we're all technical experts in different areas, and we all worked well together.
Great. Thanks. And for those of you on-campus folks, this is one of the things that I think is the magic of Sandbox, bringing together students from across campus, putting them in a situation where they're working on a single project together. It's been an amazing and fun thing to watch. Okay, so now we need our volunteers. We need Sophie, Maddie, and Ryan to come up here. Okay, come on down. Okay, who wants to go first? Maybe we should have Ryan go first because he's getting extra credit, more than you guys are, for doing this. So here's what Ryan's going to do for us. He's going to first tell the pain point that his product solves, and then he's going to give us a 2-sentence pitch on why you need it.
Have you ever wanted to get your friend a good gift, but you don't want it to be too big or you don't want it to be too small? I present to you the plush football. It's very fun to toss around. It's kind of just a little thing that means a lot to people, and it's only $4.99, so it's pretty cheap.
But that's for you. Yep. Okay, great. That was great. Good job. I'm going to actually tell your teacher that you get next week off of school. Okay. Do you want to go next, Sophia? Nope. Okay.
I have this amazing, magical, totally new technology device called a lanyard, branded in your favorite sports team for all the Aggies out there. It holds your house keys, your car keys, that secret safe you hide under your bed. Perfect for all of your devices. We have the lanyard priced at $750. Great price for a lanyard.
Wow. You guys are this is amazing. You guys are so good at this. Okay, that's for you to keep. Okay.
This is a mug, and it actually has Utah State printed on the front. And it only costs $6 without tax. And you can drink from it, actually. And when you put hot stuff in it, it won't melt the cup.
Wow. Very good. Nope, that's for you. That blew me away. That was better than a lot of our, sorry, college students. That was a lot better than a lot of our college students doing their presentation. Good job. Let's give them one more round of applause. Okay, so we're going to take some questions right now, but want to give Tanner a big round of applause. Tell him thank you. He drove up from Provo today to do this for us. And he's a super busy guy. He's works long hours at a startup, so it's really appreciate him taking the time to do this. Okay, so we have some time for some questions, right?
5 minutes and let people evacuate to go to the table.
Oh, okay, if you're working a table, you can head on out. Or if you want to visit a table. Oh, if you don't want to listen to us anymore and want to go out, you're free to leave. Okay, but are there any questions for us? Okay, just like college class. Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's always an ongoing question that we're always trying to solve, right? So, it's kind of funny. You have to explain to AI what its role is. And that's what we've done is like whenever we're using AI to actually make a decision or do some reasoning is like you are a technical expert at doing this. This is the scope of your thinking. This is the scope of your work. And so you have to like really put it in its place of exactly its environment to think of, and that's what we found. And that might be a broad answer, but that's just kind of how it is. And then the other aspect of it is understanding, you want to, when you're asking something for AI to make a decision, you want the scope of that decision to be very, very small and almost like a black and white answer type of deal. And so it's almost kind of thinking of you as a person as a high-level problem solver. How can I break up this one question into 12 different questions, but it's almost black and white answers because of how simple the question becomes. And so you got to really take your solution, break it into really, really tiny steps so that when you give it to AI, you avoid that hallucination and you have the same output for the same input as many times as possible.
Hey, anybody else? Yep, go ahead. How do you make it learn? Okay.
I don't know if I can answer that without getting too technical.
You try.
Yeah, essentially what we do is whenever there's kind of like this kind of feedback system, it's like when you're first trying to build the software, you'll have the AI do its thing, and then you have to take an analysis of its output, and in the future, you kind of just feed that into the input. So you kind of record data over time of the decision that's making as a human, and you start to kind of build up a data set of all of the kind of the results that are outputted, and then you can start to feed that as part of the input into the AI.
Yeah, one of the most important things about using AI effectively is you have to know a lot of stuff, actually.
Yeah.
So you need to become a technical expert, and then AI can help you move that along further. That's really how AI can be effective.
The better answer to that too is like when you kind of grade the AI, you have to think about higher level thinking, because if you're trying to tell it like a yes or no in this exact situation, it won't be able to apply that learning until something else that's related but not the exact same question. And so it's really kind of challenging to say, okay, you made a mistake here, but what's the higher law of this problem so I can solve this for 100 problems and not just one problem at a time. So.
Great. Okay, anybody else? Yep, go ahead. Oh, I'm going to repeat that question. So the question was, like, how is the company doing as far as sales, and how are you funded and things like that? Yeah. Oh, so that's the question.
Good question. So, yeah, we started back in August, and then we raised our first round, and we closed at the very beginning of January. And then since then, we have about, over the summer, we had about like 17 employees. A lot of those were college students from different universities for some
So they're venture backed, which means that there's investors that have put money in. I think you've raised about $800,000, which for a student company year is kind of incredible. And the money's going into building this thing. It's actually super complicated, the 200,000+ lines of code. So a lot of these companies that they're working with, hopefully by the end of the year, some pretty big contracts will be ready to be signed.
We're like a month and a half out. We'll be like an actual certified vendor with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So you'll like go to the government website, you'll see our name on them, and then once we're a certified vendor, we have like 250 companies right now waiting to like do this automation of the documentation, and so that's going to bring in a very large amount of revenue.
Anybody else? Yep.
Yeah, good question. So for the tariff side, we're kind of more about just showing our clients data. So for example, what you might look at is, in recent news, the tariffs in China have kind of gone up a lot. And so on average, a lot of tariffs are between like 60 to 80% in China. But then earlier this year with Mexico and Canada, there's called a USMCA agreement that can bring your tariff rate down to 0. And so it's not about time, it's more so about like, hey, like if we move our manufacturing of this product from China over to Mexico, like how is that going to impact our actual tariff spend, or like our landed cost of the product coming into the U.S., but also taking into analysis, okay, what's the cost to actually move that manufacturing from China to like Mexico? So we got like kind of tariffs on that kind of side of things. And then for the documentation filing, it's just like if you're going to file documents to be able to clear these products in customs, it's kind of like going to like a CPA doing a tax return. Very complex, just a ton of documentations, and a lot of companies, large companies are spending, payroll-wise, $5 to $15 billion of payroll just on paying their employees to go file this document for them. And so our system just kind of automates a lot of that process. Maybe a good example to kind of like give you a better idea what that means, like when the boat is coming into the U.S., like 2 days before the product is actually, put on the boat, you have to file a document. And then as it's coming across the seas, 14 days out, when it's out from port, you have to file more documents. And then when it's like 2 days out from port, you have to file more. So a person is manually watching, maybe 30,000 products, maybe 500 shipments going through this, and they're just trying to like play a game of like, and do I got the right thing at the right time? Our software there is just kind of like watching all this data, and it's pulling it in and just automatically filing these documents for our clients as that boat is traveling maybe from China to the United States.
Yeah. That moving dirt analogy actually fits really well with, because everything that Tanner does is actually done already. It's just done slowly, manually, and Tanner's automating it. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the presentation. I apologize if this is redundant. But does the current chaos in our presidential administration, does that benefit your software? Does that make things more difficult?
No, it highly benefits our software. So before Trump became president, this basic like getting a product, and we talked about HTS codes earlier, which is you take a product and categorize it, and based on the categories, how much tariffs you have to pay. That was already like a super complicated process. We did some audits for some companies, and out of like 10,000 products, a lot of times like even like 50 to 100 of them were like completely just like not even real codes. Like it just got messed up somewhere where they're not even real anymore. So that was a big part of our software. And what Trump has done for us is we've been able to get maybe a little bit more deeper into the pain point of these tariffs. And so maybe a good example of that is we do something called tariff engineering. So I could be importing a product from China that could be like a cashmere jacket. It's like a 65% tariff rate. But then I can look at it and say, okay, but if this is a rain jacket, then it's only going to be a 10% tariff. And so we can look at that and tell you how you can change that product to fall under the category of a cashmere jacket into an actual rain jacket. And it might cost you like 2 or 3 cents per unit to make that adjustment, but you might save $5 per product in the tariffs. So we can look at like different things like that, like how to actually, that's like kind of that tariff engineering side, and then the other aspect is changing what we would call the country of origin. So like if I'm shipping it, like if I have, cotton from Mexico going to China and then coming into the US, and I'm being tariffed on China, we might look at, based on the laws and regulations is just how the laws work. And so what our system, it ingests, it knows all of the laws. And so someone can come in and they can upload 30,000 products, wait like 30 minutes, and in those 30 minutes, it would have gone through all their products, what they're currently paying, look at all the laws, and see what we can change in their supply chain and have a lot of cost savings. And so we've worked with a company, and it really ran 10,000 products, and in 30 minutes, we saved $2 million per year. Just with the AI doing this research.
Tanner might be the only person in the country excited about tariffs. I don't know. So, anybody else? Okay, I think we'll wrap it there. So, well.
Yeah. Well, I hate to give you a bad answer, but a lot of it's just luck. So we had this idea back in March of last year, and we had no idea it was even going to become a hot topic. So it was just already a pain point in the industry, and we just started working on it and just putting all of our efforts, and honestly, things just started falling into place.
So part of that is his co-founder Bryce did a summer internship and actually did the categorization process. So that's how his co-founder first was exposed to this, by doing it manually. And then when Sandbox started, he said we should try and automate this. So,
exactly, yeah. So my founder was just deep in the weeds doing this by hand in the industry. And then he met me, and I'm like, I built software. You know the pain point. I can build the software. Let's put this together.
Yeah.
And so we just started doing that. And then what happened kind of as Trump, we heard about Trump administration possibly coming in, what he wanted to do with tariffs. It became a super hot topic. And we were probably only about a month and a half, 2 months in. This is probably September, October time last year when it became a hot topic. And all of a sudden, everyone wanted to talk to us about what we were doing. And that was really nice because, like I said in the presentation, you have to go talk to these people and understand their pain points. Well, everyone started coming to us. And so when everyone, because the pain point was so difficult that we were already solving, when everyone started coming to us, it was even easier to identify more and more pain points. And like the tariff engineering I just talked about, that's one of those things that we learned by talking to somebody. And so we just got really lucky that we found a super deep pain point, and then when the market got hot and everyone started talking about it, people started coming to us, and everything just kind of fell in place.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a
Nope.
good question. What's hard, we had a provisional patent, but the thing about patents in software, especially where AI is at right now, that by the time, we might go in and pay, I think a lot of patents are between like the $12 to $20,000 mark after we all do the attorney and everything. AI is moving so fast that even if we were to patent our software now, there might be a better solution in 3 years that we would completely switch to, and it wouldn't be patented anymore.
One thing that's interesting about the tech industry is IP protection of software isn't what it seems like it should be. You automatically have a copyright on software, but things move so quickly, and being in the tech startup arena with lots of people, it's interesting. Nobody protects ideas because it's all about execution. So people talk very openly about their ideas and solutions and things like that without worrying that anybody's going to steal it, because it's all about the execution of the company. So it's very interesting in the tech world. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I actually talked to a lot of people about this. So outside of Utah, that's a popular thing actually, where university can get actually ownership. But in Utah, there's actually protection against that, where the university can't take ownership.
Yeah, all student projects are fully owned by the student. It's a great thing.
Outside of Utah, there's different law for that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's very lucky.
Yeah, I had a friend say to me, "Wait, so you're helping all these kids and you're not making any money?" I get a paycheck. Utah State still pays my paycheck. So yeah, that's a great part of the program. Anybody else? Okay, thanks for coming. Thanks for the questions. We appreciate it.